Hi everybody, I'm in Vancouver and I'm with Bill from
RainCity Housing.
RainCity Housing and Coco from
The PHS Community Services Society.
PHS, which stands for
The Portland Hotel Society.
And it's been a wonderful day. I gotta say, my mind was opened up in a lot of different ways because it's kind of like Common Grounds from New York, which is, revamping these hotels, to DC Central Kitchen, to Tom's Shoes, because you got all this social enterprise. So we'll start with you because we started the day with you. Okay. Tell us about the bike feeding program. That was very unique.
Well, we call it the Lunch Peddlers, and it's a program that operates out of the downtown East Side Central Kitchen. And it's an amazing project where people who live in the community who have traditionally been like malnourished and living in abject poverty, like just absolutely, totally at the edges and fringes of society, weren't having regular food, and it was causing a lot of problems, obvious problems. And God, it's the end of the day, so I'm wow. And really, it was born out of one mom who had a son in one of our buildings who was starving to death, and she took her life savings and asked us if we could provide a daily meal. And from that, it was a catalyst for other private funders to come in because the success was phenomenal with that individual. And as we stand here today, we're doing 837 meals a day made by community members with a high nutritional content and delivered on bicycles,
Right.
With trailers made locally and bikes maintained locally, and yeah, we're kicking it 365 days a year.
It's really awesome, and just so maybe to help you understand the importance of it, is often low-income people or people that can't work, they get into housing, but maybe at the end of they pay their portion of the subsidized rent, they get $10 a month. Sometimes nothing. I met somebody yesterday, sometimes nothing. So they're pretty much dependent on food programs. So,
Well, they are, and I think the idea for us was not creating another situation where people are lining up and being dehumanized for food.
Yeah, it was
where
great.
people in single room occupancy hotel suites who don't have access to kitchens, and some of them don't have hot plates or anything.
Yeah.
So that we would bring the meals into their building, so it was something they never had to think about, worry about, or work hard for. And what we found was an increase in body mass index, lower rates of recidivism and critical incidents, and it's just taken off, really, quite frankly.
A gentleman was here earlier. I guess he's one of your executive directors.
Yes.
Dan,
Dr. Dan Small.
and he told me, and so rightly so, is that we put all these barriers to employment, and we put all these barriers to housing. You have to do, and you guys employ homeless people right away. You say, "Come work."
Yes.
There's $28.
Yeah, it's really low threshold, low barrier to no barriers. Really, no barriers is my favorite, because as soon as you put up anything that's obstructionist, people run for the hills, and I don't blame them. Especially when you're dealing with a population that has spent a lot of time being institutionalized. Like trying to get people to stop lining up and just to sit and be with you is an amazing thing, and it really you can do it, and that is how you build community. Get them out of the lines and into the circle.
Right. We'll go on to Bill in a second. The one thing you have a bank. You have a bank.
Yes, we do. We have a bank called Pigeon Park Savings, which is a partnership between our society and Vancity, which is like a credit union sort of model of bank. And really what happened was the one bank for low-income folks, which shockingly wasn't profitable, was closed down by the government. It was called the Four Corners, and it was run by one of our, later on became one of our city councilors, Jim Green, who has done incredible things for housing in the downtown east side, for low-income housing. He's actually built, he's built units. He's amazing. In low-income areas, you notice a lot of check cashing places pop up because people don't have traditional identification. They lose their ID. It's very difficult to be on the street or to be severely underhoused or couch surfing. So all of these sort of parasitical businesses pop up in those neighborhoods, and they're taking 3 or 4% off of their checks. Now, if you are making lots of money, that might not hurt you, but if you've only got $17, 4% is a big gouge. And it was infuriating to see people profit off the backs of the poor again. So we partnered with Vancity to create, again, a low barrier bank where the people working in the bank were embedded in the community as mental health workers, understood the population, knew the people, knew the faces, where we could use, like personal referrals to open accounts. and we've got over 5,000 clients at the bank now.
Really awesome.
Yeah, who can go in there and sort of be themselves and not be hauled out by security.
Right. No, it's great.
Or, you know, and
Unbelievable.
it's a really, really great place.
I mean, they have coffee shops and thrift store. Well, not like your thrift store. I mean, it was nice boutiques, you know.
Yeah.
But we got to get on to Bill and Bill. You guys do housing.
We do.
I mean, you guys do housing
We do
too,
housing
and
first,
they
yeah.
all work in the same community, which is great. You know, let's all get along and help people. So tell me about what you guys are doing.
We have a variety of different types of housing. Some are supported housing, some are more independent. But we try and provide a decent level of support so the relationships that Coco was talking about can be built with people. Because it's one thing to house a person, it's yet again another thing to try and build a relationship so that respect and that trust is there, so they can move on from not just being housed, but actually getting involved in the community, like the pedaling program, things like that. So we also have peer programs where people can come in who used to be at a shelter, coming back and showing people in the current shelter what it's like to jump through all the hoops to get housed. We also have meal programs as well at some of our sites, and outreach teams.
How many units, basically, are you? I mean, buildings or whatever. How many?
Well, about 480 units in about 10 buildings, mostly
Okay.
in the downtown east side. 2 buildings
Great.
outside this area.
What are your barriers and what are your the reasons that you would partner with your neighbors? I mean, a lot of times in areas like this, obviously all the nonprofits working with homeless services are located. And often we might say we work with each other, but we don't. And you guys, I walked around with you guys today, and I thought it was...
We didn't get in a fight or anything.
No, you
Well,
didn't.
you know what? though? Bill and I have sat at the same advisory committee meetings for years, like up to a decade, fighting for units and fighting for a space for our population to exist in a neighborhood that's being gentrified.
Right.
And honestly, there are so many bigger battles that like really people always talk like the silo approach, and it's like we do all operate somewhat independently, but we need to support each other. When there's a development permit going to the city and we know there's going to be NIMBYism,
Right.
we're there at their hearings, they're there at ours.
Yeah.
Because we want these units of supported housing to be built in across Metro Vancouver and in this neighborhood as well. And no matter where, like we're in a low income area, it's easier to build here, but there's still massive opposition to supported social housing units. And really honestly, you can't do without housing, without completely low barrier off the street into housing opportunities for people. We're going to continue to see unnecessary poverty and illness and death, and and a lack of dignity amongst our human family, and that's the big story, I think.
And while there are times when we're still vying for the same provincial funds, we realize that there's a need for both, like for multiple different types of nonprofits to
That's right.
provide, because people are homeless for a variety of reasons, therefore you need to have a variety of different services, and while we're quite similar, we're still different, and that's
Yeah.
important because people are homeless for different reasons.
No, totally. Now, you both support the harm reduction model.
Yes.
And in a very strong way.
We found it really successful. Really. I know.
You
So
mean
have we.
saving lives?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Just a little behind the scenes, and I'm 16 years sober, and I was a garbage head. I did a little bit of everything. My favorite drug was yours because I didn't have to pay for it. And so I was a real dope fiend. I mean, I ended up on Hollywood Boulevard. So when I hear of the harm reduction model, I lean towards that. But the big news was wet shelters where they offered alcohol.
Yeah.
So when I came here, I was actually trying to seek a wet shelter because I really wanted to visit it and see for myself because I didn't know. And then all of a sudden I found myself in a supervised injection site today.
Yes.
And I'm still trying to process that. I really am. I gotta say, as much as it's controversial because you immediately want to go, no, this is wrong. But if you think about it and sit about it, and somebody posted on my Facebook too, who is a doctor that worked in one of these facilities, said that she was against it when she started and then worked in this facility and saw the results.
Yeah.
So what, you talk about it.
Well, really, honestly, you can't detox if you're dead. So
Oh,
there's
I'm tweeting that.
So really, either you believe that lives are worth saving or you don't. This is where I'm divisive. It's like either we're all born equal and we all deserve to have access to live safely and with a reduction of harm, or we don't. The individuals who use the supervised injection site have been are street entrenched, usually polyaddicted.
Clarify
and,
polyaddicted.
Addicted to multiple substances,
Okay.
maybe on methadone, but injecting cocaine.
Right.
And the level of
Garbage
pain,
head, like I said.
Yeah. Okay.
Now I have the real term.
The level of pain and trauma for some of these individuals, you can't, unless you open the door for them to be shown a medical, how am I going to say it? Okay. So unless people have an opportunity for a medical intervention or a first point with health, a first contact with health, with a respectful place to go in and inject safely, you can't expect them to stop drawing puddle water to mix their heroin, right? If they're doing, people are in the alleys doing shakes and jamming it in and creating abscess, spreading disease.
Right.
And honestly, I think, I'm not sure what the stats are, there's 36 or 60 papers and research papers published in favor of the Insight intervention. But, I think we've reduced seroconversion to HIV amongst injection drug users in the downtown east side exponentially. It's a massive drop in HIV prevalence, and that alone is a huge intervention.
And you've seen people wanting to detox, saying,
Oh, yeah.
hey, I've had enough of this. Can you help me?
Yeah,
I don't want to do this anymore.
It is an incredible gateway to detox, right? Because they're in the injection site and they can actually walk through a door and go into detox.
Right.
They don't have to make a phone call. They don't have to wait 2 weeks till they're sober. They can go upstairs with a counselor they've built a relationship with, and become part of the detox community upstairs, and then the recovery community at on-site.
And that's so crucial, and that's the missing part, right? People hear harm reduction, they think use drugs, and that's it.
Right.
And that either harm reduction or abstinence, and it's not.
Right.
It's the same spectrum. It's just different approaches, and there's all these different steps from harm reduction towards that, and that's one of the steps, as you said. It's an access into detox.
I'm going to close on this as I thought about it. Just like there's Coke and Pepsi. Different things are going to work for different people.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So I do support the harm reduction model, but I also support places that are abstinent-based because it's going to work for some and it might not work for others.
And I have to agree. I'm not a disease model person. I think if 12 steps worked, I'd be out of a job, which would be fabulous because this neighborhood wouldn't be filled. You'd be hard pressed to throw a rock and hit someone who hasn't been through an NA or AA program in this community.
Right.
So, but it does work for some.
Right.
And I think that's extremely valid. But I think that we know that many different interventions are needed.
Right.
And we need to fund and develop many different interventions so people can have different outcomes.
Right. And the key to that is that we need to communicate and work with each other. You just can't say, oh, you're harm reduction, you're evil, we stay sober. You got to say, hey, and you can be able to refer people to different things. Maybe this would work better for you, maybe this would work better, and support each other. I mean, drug addict, people are dying on the streets. People are literally, what the line you said, you don't have to be dead to detox.
You can't detox if you're dead. Yeah.
So, gosh, guys, I want to come back.
Please do. Please come back.
I really do. I really had a marvelous day, and it was just really educational, and thank you guys for showing me around.
Thank you. Lovely to have you. You're welcome anytime. Honorary Canadian.
Honorary.
Canadian.
Okay, we're getting closer.
Yeah, come get some health care. Come on.
So.